All right, Morning Show with Anthony. Super excited to have on the phone with us an absolute legend, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. Denny Laine joins us on the Morning Show with Anthony. Denny, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. Show is at Bay Street Theater Saturday night. You're calling this tour Songs and Stories. I get excited about that because when you build up a career like you have, I always kind of want to hear the stories behind the music as well. I'm assuming that's what you're doing at this show.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's it's the equivalent of writing a book in a way, because when you're doing these shows, you know, I mean, people in the audience get to participate. They ask you questions, or they might inspire a story or something, or ask for a song which inspires the story, and that kind of thing, which, you know, can be more fun than just doing a gig with a band sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like so I talk about how the songs are written, what they're all about, and drop a few names, things like that.
Let's start by dropping a few names. Before even the Moody Blues, you kind of bounced around in a couple of bands, a couple of projects. Was it always music for you when you were growing up? Did you know this is absolutely what I'm doing and I'm going to do it no matter what?
Yeah, I think what happened is that a lot of kids of my age, we came after the war. You know, we were the youngest. I was the youngest of the family. And we were sort of left to do what we wanted to do. You know, get on with it, do your own thing, and that's it. So music was obviously a way of getting, you know, a job, getting at it. And in fact, I was doing it when I was at school as well. So, I mean, it was all part of the growing up thing, music, with everybody in my street, really. Even in school, there was a lot of people doing music, a lot of bands, in Birmingham anyway, and Liverpool. I mean, that's how the Moody Blues came together. You know, they'd been out in Germany with the Beatles. They came back, wanted to put a band together, go back out there. And that's what happened, is that I decided I wanted to do a blues group, and we stayed in England instead of going to Germany, and then we got discovered. So the rest was kind of history, but, you know, it's always about music, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Brian Epstein, and they always say that the Moody Blues was like the band that got away from Brian Epstein. Do you have any stories of those those early days with Brian?
Well, the Beatles actually were doing us a favor, because we were with a company which, you know, got us famous. I mean, they were actually involved with the Beatles, a company called Ridge Pride. There used to be a company called Cell Tab, and they were involved with the Beatles merchandise. And they basically decided to go into management, found us, and we became that. Well, anyway, so we became friends with the Beatles in the very early days. And they were neighbours and stuff. We'd have parties. And Brian was always, you know, around. I can remember a lot of times. And the final thing that I did with Brian was at the... well, actually what happened was, when we decided to leave our management, or they left us, we went with Brian. And it was the Beatles who recommended him. So that's what happened there. And he was a real gentleman, Brian, you know, but he didn't have all the time in the world for us, because obviously he was, at that time actually, he was getting in touch with Robert Stigwood about the Bee Gees. So there was that going on. But he gave us a lot of work. We became part of his agency and all that stuff. So it was all very, very positive stuff. And then he had a theatre called the Saddle Theatre, and John, Paul, and Peter Asher were in the audience one night when I was closing the first half of Jimmy Hendrix. And Paul saw me doing my string band thing. And so Brian was basically encouraging me to go out and do my own thing after I left the Moody's. I actually went to him and said, look, I need to get out of the band and do my own thing. Is that all right with you? He said, yeah, I don't care. Whatever you want to do. So I did. I put the string band together. Paul saw me at the Jimi Hendrix show, and that kind of led, I think, to me joining Wings. mainly because we knew each other so well. So that's how that came about.
I tell you, that Jimi Hendrix show was the epicenter of music. I mean, it's amazing how everybody, you, Paul, right, Clapton, like it's amazing who was in that room in those early days of music. It's crazy.
I know. Well, Paul and I went to see Jimmy when he first came over. Now, Charles Chandler brought him over from America, and first place he stayed with a friend of mine called Zoot Money. And Zoot Money, the big roll band, was quite well known in London at the time. And Zoot and the Animals and all their management were all friends of ours. We knew them from the clubs. And so, of course, Jimmy was already connected to us as soon as he came here. And I already knew Noel and Mitch, his drum and bass player. So, when we went to see him the first time, Paul and I went to a club called the Bag of Nails Club in London. And that was it. So, we already kind of knew Jimmy. And like a lot of bands knew each other in those days, because we always used to play together, played the same gigs. And that's exactly what this gig was. And there's a lot of people on that bill. And as you say, a lot of famous people, now famous, were in the audience. Well, they were famous then, but, these are the early days,
Yeah. Denny Laine is with us. He's going to be at the Bay Street Theater on Saturday night. Get tickets and more info, baystreet.org. Songs and Stories. It should be a great show. I'm curious, Denny. I mean, I get you. You felt the need that you had to go out and be on your own, and it all works out for you in the end. But when you first leave the Moody Blues and Justin moves in and Nights in White Satin comes out, what's your feeling like then? Are you, because I feel like history says you guys left on a good note, but were you happy for their success, or were you like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah. No. I was totally happy for their success. Because I felt a little bit guilty about leaving, but they wanted to go on the road and work because, like I say, we all got, money-wise, we didn't do, the management in those days, you didn't know what they were doing, and the money went somewhere but didn't come to us. So we needed to work, and we were working, but I wanted to go in the studio, and we owed Decca an album, actually. But so I went and did my thing, and they went on, and it was Eric Burden, actually, who gave them a list of people, a guitar player, and one of them was Justin. So, first gig that I played with them, only gig actually, I was opening for them with my string band at a club called the 100 Club in London, and they were playing the same set that I used to do. And it was a little bit weird because I thought, they need to get out of this and change this. And they did eventually change their set, got rid of the blue suits, and became what they are now. So I was very pleased about that, because now they were successful, and I was, doing okay myself. So I didn't feel so guilty about leaving. So I was very happy. And to this day, I'm still pretty friendly with them all. And, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was great. I mean, they were really nice to me. It was just great. It was like an old school reunion, really. And seeing Mike and Graham, especially. Shame about Ray, because he passed away, but his wife was there. But it was a really nice feeling to be back in that camp again. I felt part of it all again. So it was great, really.
Yeah, it's funny, because, as fans, like, we're seeing this kind of going into this year. I think Radiohead's not going to show up or something, or, we've seen bands that haven't been able to put it together. But as fans of music, like, it's so great when everybody's able to put it together and be there for that night and celebrate the work and the music and everything. Like, I love that. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, me too. I mean, yeah, it's the thing, we all started off, doing lots of gigs. I mean, that was the whole thing in them days. There was no recording in the early days. It was all working on the road. There was a lot of live bands, and you had to be good. And to this day, just seeing the Moody's that night, I thought, well, God, they're still good bands. They sound great. They've got that's what their secret was, really. They were still good live. And, that's what makes bands famous. It's not so much, you can have a hit record, but you won't last unless you're any good live, So that's really what that whole legacy was of the 60s. I mean, the Beatles were a great band. You know, they had a great feel, and that's the main thing here. You know, we all had to do work to make people dance, and that's what, otherwise we wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So we had to be a good band, and that's what it still is the same today. If you're a good live band, I mean, look at some of these bands, you know, that actually make it more for their live work than they do the records. Dave Matthews, for example, you know, and all those kind of Zach Brown bands. You know, they've got live audiences because they're so good live. And that's what I'm kind of proud of the fact that we've all stayed pretty good. You know, we're still playing live. You know, even Paul, I mean, he's always got a great show because he's good live, you know.
Yeah.
And good musicians. And the same with me. I've got a band, great band. Some of them originally came from Peter Ash's band. And, you know, they're really good live. So I do the Band on the Run album, the old Moody Blues album. I do a lot of stuff, you know, from my own catalogue. And I enjoy playing live more than anything. So when my band's not available, like now, I do solo shows. So that's the idea of this show.
Yeah, and people still get to hear, you know, your solo interpretations of all this music. I mean, it's great. I mean, all right, so let's go from after the Moody Blues. You do Electric String, you do Ginger Baker, settling into Wings. I'm assuming it's the friendship you had with Paul, but did you know in '71, like, yeah, I could probably do this for the next 10 years or so?
No, I didn't think of it like that. You know, I wanted to do something. My band in those days, the string band, were string players from the Royal Academy, 4 of them, and they had to go on tour with some big orchestral tour. And at that time, I was out of work for a couple of months. So that's really what happened. And I was just, you know, in the office one day and the phone rang and it was Paul. And in fact, I was very good friends with Mark Bolan in those days. And he and I were sort of, you know, in the office because he was trying to get a deal with the same management in America. And we were talking and the phone rang. So that was Paul. And so, I mean, as I say, you know, it was just very, very because we knew each other. And it was very easy for me to just jump on a plane, go to Scotland, and start again, really, was what it was. And we had to do something new. We couldn't do the old stuff. We had to think, like the Moody's, you know, we had to think about, well, what can we do now? We've got to do our own thing, like I did with the string band. And it's always good to start something new like that, because it's a challenge. You get a lot of pressure from the press in our case, but in the early days, we were in Scotland, so we didn't really care about that. And we just kind of went slowly forward, you know, and that's really the way it works. It doesn't work if you're just thrown into the arena just like that, you know, and you've got to do an album and you've got to come out with something big and do a big tour. You've got to ease your way into it like any band, and that's really what we did.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because, you know, the backlash against Robert Plant for not wanting to go backwards and wanting to do something new, it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, you guys had to reinvent yourselves and move forward all the time. I mean, that I'm sure that couldn't have been easy.
Well, you know what I mean? From the outside point of view, it doesn't look easy. But from our point of view, it is easy because we're doing what we want to do. See, if it wouldn't be easy if we were trying to recreate the Beatles songs and Moody Blues and stuff and whatever we'd done in our past, it wouldn't have been easy then because we would have been up against, you know, a lot of criticism and we wouldn't have enjoyed it either. So it was easy in the sense that, hey, we had a carte blanche to just go ahead and do what we wanted to do. And of course, it inspired Paul to write a lot, and me. So, you know, and to put a good band together. That was the inspiration. And even though we went through a few lineups, we still every time had a great band, you know, and we toured as much as we possibly could. Unfortunately for the Japan thing, that ruined everything because of the visa situation. So suddenly we weren't going on the road. But again, you know, jumping forward, that's one of the reasons I walked away, is because I wanted to work live more. That's all.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was a great live band eventually. Right from the off, even with Denny and Henry, they were great players. The band was a good band, even though we didn't have any, record success yet. It was still a good band, and we enjoyed it playing. We enjoyed rehearsing, if nothing else.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil the show too much, but from 71 to 81, you were with Paul and Linda. Is there a story that, sticks out in your mind as a fond memory?
Well, lots of fond memories. I mean, we always had a very good, working relationship. That's the first thing. Paul and I just slotted straight into it because we grew up with the same music. We love the same people. And we would jam a lot on old things and stuff like that. Going up to Scotland, for the first time and sort of being a part of, almost like a part of their family, in a sense. We had a lot of laughs. Of course we did. I mean, especially when we first went on that university tour, and we stayed in these cheap hotels, keeping a low profile. And of course, nobody recognised Paul at all because you wouldn't associate Paul going into these little bed and breakfast places on the way to a gig and turning up at places and saying, "Well, we've got Paul McCartney in the car. Can we do a gig?" And there was all that funny part about it. So we were laughing all our way through all of that, thinking, people can't believe this, but it actually works in our favour. We had a lot of fun. Let's put it that way. We did.
That's awesome.
Getting away.
How quickly into the start of the band did Paul ever sing Penny Lane to you as Denny Laine? Did he ever do that?
Never. No. But he knows, and I know that Penny Lane was definitely inspired by me and Go Now because, Paul's that kind of guy. He'll take something like that and twist it into a song. He's very kind of, inspired by one thing and which relates to another thing, if you see what I mean. So Penny Lane, obviously, Denny Laine, is, his inspiration. But you got to remember that the bass line in Penny Lane is exactly the same as the bass line in Go Now. That's right. The same bass line. It's the same.
Yeah.
And that's taken from Air on a G string by Bach anyway. So Paul used to stand at the side of the stage a lot when we were touring with them. And he would always come out to listen to Go Now. He loved that, Well, everybody loved that song. And he was influenced a lot by us. I can tell, I think that's another reason he wanted me in the band. Because, I was a singer in another band, and it was like a band he liked. So, Penny Lane was definitely inspired by me, for sure. There's no getting away from it. Or even though it was about Liverpool, it was like a Liverpool folk song to me. This is what I liked about a lot of the Beatles stuff. It represented their lifestyle, and like Dylan does in America. They represented Britain in a way, or Liverpool especially, but town living, growing up working class people.
Yeah.
So that's what Penny Lane was all about. But a lot of people say it to me, and I give them the evil eye. I look at them like, but Penny Lane, then they say, "Oh well, I think I better go now." There's a lot of that goes on.
Denny Laine is with us here on the Morning Show with Anthony. So, Denny, long successful career, 60s, 70s, all the way through to today. We often have this debate here on the Morning Show with Anthony because we're such big fans, but it's a fun conversation for me to have with the listeners all the time. If you could pick the worst decade, now, granted, there is no bad decade for music, but if you can pick the least good decade for music, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, which one would you say was overall the weakest decade for music?
Well, the 70s and 60s were definitely the strongest from what was going on as far as you could still make it as a touring, working band. I think the 80s started to be a problem because, there still was a lot of good music. There's always going to be a lot of talented people there.
Yeah.
But I think what happened with the computer age, you know, the 80s and 90s, I mean, I don't know the exact time that it would have been bad because I wasn't really following a lot of it. All I know is people were starting to make records at home. And we've all done it. I mean, I made records in the studio, but they were still home records in a way because I did most of the playing. And you overdub yourself and you do all that kind of recording. You know, we even did it with Wings. But, I mean, you kind of don't, you know, you do everything. It's more of a, like, not being in a band as being a solo person where you just do everything yourself. And then people were making computer records. And I'm just as bad because a lot of my... Well, I don't know about it bad, but it was a sign of the times. But I did a lot of, you know, electronic drums, computer. I mean, Mike Pinder from the Moody Blues basically invented the synthesizer. He was responsible for that. So we all use synthesizers and drum machines and God knows what. In fact, Stevie Wonder gave Paul a drum machine. Well, I was with him after, and he came in the studio and gave him a drum machine. So we started using that. But I'm not saying it was a bad time, but I think it stopped people from working live more. You know, there was more recording going on, and everybody, and his dog wanted to be a musician because you could do all on computers.
Yeah.
So for me, that would be the worst because there wasn't enough live music. Now, I could be slightly wrong, you know, decade. Could have been the 90s, could have been the 80s, but it was around the mid of those 2 years, 2 decades that I think it's a brick wall. And since then, thank God, everybody started putting bands together and going playing live again, especially the young kids.
Yeah.
Because the young kids, a lot of these young kids are like get in touch with me all the time now. And because they sort of look at us as being the first people that started going live and doing, you know, that stuff in the early days and doing our own thing, which is what they're inspired by it now. I think live music is the reason that everybody's back out there doing it again. And more venues are opening and all the rest of it. So, you know, it always wins in the end. I think the time when everybody was using computers more than anything was not a good thing. But it was a start, and now it's kind of a mixture of both, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. By the way, you are a scholar, my friend. You are so smart that I say the exact same thing. It was that 80s decade. The technology, like you pointed out, also the emphasis on MTV and visuals instead of the actual music also, I think, played into it. But I completely agree. Yeah.
All of that, yeah, especially the visuals. Mind you, the visuals are good too because, you know, it's nice to see a band and, you know, videos. I mean, the Moody Blues did the very first promotional, if you want to call it video, the very first one to go now. But it was actually 70 mil, but it wasn't video, but it was still a promotional film. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I just think it kind of outweighed balance-wise, you know, it outweighed all the live thing. So
right.
That's what we're with it,
yeah, and it's true what you say because the business has changed so much. The financial part of the business has changed. You've got to be great live today to pull it off, and it's like you said back in the day, it was all about that live show experience.
Yeah. Well, as I say, it's the live bands that are getting the fans these days. That's all I can say. It's not so much people who have a hit. It's the live bands. And, you know, I mean, for example, Lady Gaga is a great talent. She's got all that other stuff going, you know, and I saw her with Tony Bennett, you know, and she did a great show with him. And she's a great singer, but she's also got all that other stuff. Which is the visuals and the image and all the rest of it. But she's actually a really good talent, and that's what stands out to me. But it's good to have both. You know, it's really good to be both, like you say. We wouldn't have made it without some kind of gimmick or, you know, you know what I mean, selling ourselves in the early days and promotion and all that stuff. But it was always down to live work that really got the respect from people, I think, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Denny, this was absolutely a pleasure and so much fun. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame. And we're all looking forward to Saturday night, Bay Street, baystreet.org for tickets and more info. Denny, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Anthony. I really enjoyed it. Thanks. I'll see you there.
There he goes. Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, absolute legend, Moody Blues, Wings, Electric String, Ginger Baker's, Air Force, the whole 9 yards. Denny Laine, right here on Long Island, Saturday night, Bay Street Theater, baystreet.org. I feel vindicated. I feel like I've been sitting here. By the way, you know how much guff and slack and threats I've received for taking on 80s music and saying it's the worst decade of music? There you go, my friends. There you go, my doubters. There's Denny Laine, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Paul McCartney confidant, sitting there telling you the same thing your old pal Ant's been telling you for so long. You can stop sending me threatening emails. I know some of you went to high school. It was your golden era. Worst decade of music, period. Denny Laine, your old pal Ant. It's done. Over. Case is closed. We are correct, sir. Good day. Good day. Still great music. Still some of my favorite songs ever to come out of the 80s. But overall, when you average it out and you look at those decades, worst period ever. Worst period. It's just something has to be last place. He answered the question right. He got it. He totally got it. Boy, I mean, I can't even. Jimmy Hendrix and McCartney and Wings and Ginger Baker. I can't even imagine what kind of stories you're in for Saturday night at Bay Street Theater. That's going to be a great show. Baystreet.org for tickets and more info. My thanks to Denny Laine for getting us a little bit closer to the music here on The Morning Show with Anthony.